All right, we will go ahead and get started. Again, good morning. My name is, good afternoon and good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to this month's webinar. My name is Mike McCamon. I'm the Executive Director of the NFC Forum. I will talk about my panelists here in just 1 second. If we can go to the next slide, I will walk us through just a quick couple of housekeeping items. When you log in to go to webinar, if you're not familiar with this tool, you will see this control panel. You are defaulted as mute by the organizer. There will be time for questions at the end of our session. Please feel free to ask your questions in the questions pane, and time permitting, we'll get to as many of those as we can. We'd like to have these as interactive as possible towards the end, so it'd be great to get some sessions on those, and we'll look forward to your questions. Next slide. We're really fortunate to have four really key individuals in the industry joining us today. Preeti from Infineon, we have Stefan from Identiv, Jean-Remi from ST, and Lucas Bond from BoardPusher. I will not introduce them here. I will give them the opportunity to introduce themselves and their backgrounds, but they do cover a wide range of use cases for NFC and also the DPP. The plan here is to kind of walk us from the industry perspective, the silicon providers, the integrators, and also brands. I think it's a very interesting, broad topic, and of course it has a lot of stakeholders, and I'm really excited to have all four of you participating today. I'm going to do a quick overview of the NFC Forum, so if our other panelists want to turn off their cameras, they're more than welcome to do so, and when I'm done, I'll pass the baton on to Preeti. So next slide, please. Next slide. So if you're unfamiliar with the NFC Forum, we are a nonprofit trade organization, and we are advocates for contactless across a variety of use cases, including payment, of course. We have over 700 members, which is quite remarkable. We've been growing quite rapidly over the last 2 or so years, in part, I think, due to the adoption of contactless across a variety of different use cases. These are our 9 sponsor members, our kind of highest level of membership, and they include obviously some household names that all of us are very familiar with, along with the many key suppliers across a variety of markets across our ecosystem. And I always like to thank all of them and all of our members for all of their support. This webinar would not be possible without their contributions and efforts. Next slide, please. So when the NFC Forum looks at the marketplace, we really do see this long arc of contactless adoption. And it's being driven by digital wallets in handsets and wearables across all of these different use cases. We believe that the adoption of digital wallets is not only accelerating, which we can see in the market, but it is inevitable. We will be carrying around most of our credentials, our identity and loyalty, our keys, all of these things will be stored in our technology products and be accessed via technologies like NFC. I will mention one thing that we always think about when we talk about the digital product passport, which is one of the topics for today, is it really is somewhat just an extension of identity. If you think about identity philosophically and not just about individuals, but products also have an identity. And of course, this is what the digital product passport initiative from the European Commission is trying to capture, is an ability for even things to have an identity. And of course, this will all be hopefully implemented through technologies like NFC technologies. Next slide, please. When it comes to NFC in general, obviously we know that it's very convenient and it's quite pervasive. I won't spend a lot of time. The NFC Forum does a biannual research on this topic across 9 different countries. The key takeaway is that basically nearly all consumers use NFC technology. And I think also a very interesting data point that came out this last year is that nearly half of people prefer using their mobile phone or smartwatch instead of a contactless card. So contactless has become a device-first technology and no longer a card-first technology. And this bodes very well for our work in the DPP effort. Next slide, please. Now, I'm not going to go too deeply into this concept of data carriers because our other speakers will, but when you talk about the DPP, there's this concept of a data carrier, a mechanism for allowing products to connect to the cloud. The NFC technology does do that, and there are many companies already doing that. You'll hear from some of those today. But the mission of the NFC Forum is much broader than that. We are more than just a data carrier. We believe it's very important to have easy to use universal readers available to consumers. By the way, that's the handset you probably already own. We are looking at ways to have our data carrier use case be expanded to allow on-product options and dynamic data. That was some of the things that we demonstrated in these this last month. We also, of course, through our design and the size and weight of our and form factors of our technologies, allow for greater industrial design freedom and smaller devices. Of course, that's also good in terms of sustainability. And we also have a really deliberate effort around power to being able to charge devices. So powering IoT devices and also charging without cables are all things that are possible across the NFC ecosystem. So our efforts around sustainability are not just as a data carrier, which we'll talk some about today, but are much more broadly across a lot of different use cases. Next slide, please. We also just want to quickly mention there is an application that we shared as a proof of concept at our Vision NFC event, and it's a reader that allows us to read NDPP data. The NFC Forum is working on specifications, as I said, to extend the DPP, and we're calling that the NFC DPP. So NDPP is going to be the specification. We're expecting to have drafts of that here in 2025, but at the Vision NFC event, we actually did a live, actually several live demonstrations being able to read DPP data directly off of products as opposed to the cloud. And what we demonstrated there was these kind of 5 items, which is around peacefully coexisting with the default behavior of mobile handsets, being able to access offline data or offline access to the digital product passport. So for instance, when you're in airplane mode or you don't have internet access, we also showed an anti-tampering feature and also dynamic data. And you can also see there was a number of other demonstrations that were shared around using NFC in a digital product passport ecosystem. So all very exciting last month. All right, next slide. And with that, we'll move on to our panelists. And it's my pleasure to introduce Preeti, and I'll let her take it from here.
Thank you, Mike. Next slide, please. Hello, everyone. I'm Preeti Ohri Khemani. I'm Senior Director for Partnerships and Ecosystems at Infineon Technologies. And today I'll share with you a perspective from our side on sustainability and digital product passport. Next slide, please. So we are aware that people are becoming increasingly conscious of their own contribution towards climate change and are prepared to do something about it. A MasterCard survey in July 2023 of US consumers showed that 85% of consumers showed willingness and they think they can contribute to taking actions and reducing their impact on climate change. With this, they are also expecting companies to take charge of this topic and look at topics like slashing waste, reducing packaging, plastics in packaging, and reducing waste in air pollution and water. Next slide, please. The EU Commission came with their Green Deal, and they are, from the regulatory perspective, responding to this need for sustainability and paving the path for circular economy. And the Green Deal led to a series of laws in EU. ESPR, Design Sustainable Product Regulation, is one of it. Digital product passport is a key element for ESPR, and it aims at sharing product-related information across the life cycle of the product. We expect a series of delegated acts coming as part of ESPR. And there's a time frame for a digital product passport implementation that I'm showing in my presentation here. We know that the battery regulation has already passed. We are expecting that the first standardization request results and standards for digital product passport will be coming in next year. And following that, we are expecting a delegated act for textile, which is one of the priority groups, as well as delegated acts for energy intensive materials like iron is going to follow that, followed by also delegated acts for and following regulation for electronics. Next slide, please. So at Infineon, we take climate protection very serious, and we actively drive decarbonization. We do this on one side by reducing our own carbon footprint during the manufacturing of our products through energy efficiency, modern production processes, and use of green energy. And on the other side, we contribute globally by enabling CO2 reductions through our innovative products and solutions. Next slide. So let me show you a concrete example of how we do this, of how we reduce the product carbon footprint of a state-of-the-art security chip and module solution for a dual interface product. So we start by shrinking the size of the IC and pack more ICs per wafer with our 28 nanometer technology. And then on the module side, we use inductive coupling module that is 70% less weight and 50% less height. Overall, just by doing this, we lead to approximately 53% CO2 reduction compared to a standard module. Click. So I ask, why do we stop here, right? Why not do away with the copper wire as well? And we did just that. Next. Last month at Infineon, we launched Sakura Pay Green. This is world's first contactless payment card technology, allowing for up to 100% reduction in plastic waste. Next. So this is a quick sneak peek into what we are doing from our company and at Infineon, how we strive to meet customer demands with trusted eco-friendly solutions. And with this, I'll hand over to Jean-Remi.
Hello, thanks, Preeti. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Jean-Remi Ruiz. I'm working for STMicroelectronics. I am a lobbying and standardization manager in ST and working in topics related to RFID and NFC. So I would like to talk to you to disclose what is the view of ST regarding the DPP and the sustainability. So first, in the last year, the sustainability, the industry realized that the sustainability was a great topic to address, to continue to address the ongoing markets and to address new business opportunities. That's why my company, as a leader industry, release every year a sustainability report to demonstrate its ability to increase their sustainability effort with a set of different initiatives. By example, the ST plans to be carbon neutral by 2027. But the sustainability concern was also raised at the European Commission, and the European Commission took a lot of initiative to address it. One of these conclusions was the creation of the DPP. And the DPP is in fact an enabler of sustainability ambition. The goal of the DPP is to give information to the consumer, to the recycler, to all the people who are taking part of the life cycle, information about the product, to increase the circular economy, to reduce the waste, and to have a better product at the end. So what is the link between the NFC technology and the DPP data carrier? The NFC technology can be DPP data carrier. Data carrier is the link between the physical goods and the data which are stored in the cloud related to the good. The technology, the NFC technology, can be used for this to enable this use case, because it's a technology that customer can trust and feel convenient. We can trust this NFC technology because this NFC technology is something which is used every day worldwide for the payment, for the transport, for other application. We can, thanks to this technology, we can leverage the security mechanism to prevent the fraud and the counterfeiting. And then it's convenient. Why it is so convenient? It's convenient because we all have a mobile phone with NFC feature in the pocket. So it means that the infrastructure is ready. So it can be used and deployed today. So if we can combine trust and convenience, for sure it will be adopted by the customer. Next slide, please. Yeah. Now let's have a look to the regulation. The regulation is a law. So as most of the law is something which is at first sight seen as a constraint, because it's something that we have to implement. It's a must. But at the end, if we have a deeper look into this regulation, we can see that it is an opportunity for us, for NFC Forum, and also for silicon provider or for technology provider, to enable a new use case based on NFC Forum. How to do that? We have to convince people. We have to make the best user experience as possible. If we manage to do that, it will for sure trigger interest from customer in brands, and at the end, the technology will be adopted. It's a goal that we have to do. Of course, we can use the smart NFC technology to go beyond what DPP is defining. So NFC technology is able to offer much more than what is orchestrated by the DPP, but we can combine this use case with the law. So this is a great asset. Then I would like to finish talking about lobbying and standardization effort. Today, there are some rules, as it was explained by Preeti, which are under definition, some specifications which are under definition. There are some technologies which are foreseen to be part of the DPP journey. NFC technology can be one of these technology, but nothing is done right now. We have to, as a technology provider, as an implementer, as an application developer, we have to raise our voice to relevant organizations to let them know that we trust in NFC technology, that NFC technology can bring added value and can be adopted by the market. So what I would advise to you is raise your voice and being inclusive. Do not restrict the technology to only one technology, but take the best technology that will fit to your implementation and your application. Now I will let the floor to Stefan Genser.
Okay, thank you, Jean-Remi. So my name is Stefan Genser. I'm Sales Director at Identiv, responsible for RFID and NFC transponder solutions in Europe. So I'm closely working with new projects related to NDPP. And I give a short overview on the integrator's perspective on the digital product passport. So when thinking about integrators in this whole NDPP case, we are more or less the ones who will bridge the gap between the NFC technology and the practical real-world applications which we have in our everyday life. And thinking about the digital product passport a lot more products will require an NFC tag in future. And the big portion of help which we can offer to any client or person who is interested in this topic is that we have a lot of solution from our past. So for example, at Identiv, we are integrating tags into different products for many, many years now. And if there is a new client who says, okay, I think NFC might be a good solution for me, we are definitely the right people to talk to, because we can support with our experience to make the first step there. So the integrators support with their knowledge and their expertise in this field. And this also comes from many different stakeholders in this area. So looking at different manufacturers and producers of materials. So we just heard Jean-Remi from STMicroelectronics, for example, for the semiconductor solutions. We are in touch with a lot of product owners who already did implement NFC. And even if it was quite difficult, we always managed it to do it. There is a lot of know-how which is needed from regulatory authorities, from policymakers, but also from organizations like the NFC Forum, which we have here. So with recommendations where it is actually really interesting and necessary and beneficial to integrate NFC instead of barcode, for example, or QR code. And of course, we already heard it also from Jean-Remi, it's the user experience, which is important. So consumers and users, patients, for example, they should all be involved in this analysis of how to integrate NDTP best. And from our perspective, it's always a lot of work and planning to figure out what is the required or what is the product actually requiring. So normally we have a look at the mechanical requirements which we have there. So this comes from durability, for example, if an NFC tag needs to be encapsulated, for example, because it needs to be water resistant, or some chemical substances are used for cleaning, for example. There are products with different shapes, sizes, materials. Surface material in general is a big topic, because we need to take care of which tag and which layering, for example, we use there. But also looking at, we want to have an NFC solution for the whole lifetime of a product, and this lifetime can be very long. So also abrasion or peel-off resistance are important topics to consider. And beside the mechanical requirements, also data requirements are there. So which data should be encoded onto the tag? What's the data architecture? Which interfaces need to be considered? Are there any additional security features that will need to be added? And from data side, it's also, of course, interesting. Will there be a change in the data over the lifetime of a product? So following, for example, ownership, things like that need to be considered right in the beginning, so that you prepare having the integration of an NFC tag into a product the way you need it and the way it is needed also in future. So having said that, I think we are moving on now to a very interesting integration example with Lukas from BoardPusher. So I will hand over to you.
Thank you, Stefan. So yes, I'm here to talk about what we have done with BoardPusher. BoardPusher is a custom skateboard company that I founded about 20 years ago now. We came into the idea of using NFC from our own kind of business needs and customer requests, along with our own interest in improving the sustainability and the provenance of our skateboards. So although it wasn't originally from a regulation standpoint that we started looking into it, we have now landed here and have started the process of putting a product passport into skateboards. So if you want to move on to the next slide, you can see here, we started this a few years ago, and what we discovered was that skateboards are actually a very good product for NFC tags. We're able to embed the tags in the manufacturing process of the skateboard. So the tag is inside the skateboard, manufactured in between plies of wood. So it's invisible, you can't see it, despite the fact that you can easily scan it. It's tamper-proof and protected, so it really ends up being a situation where you can't remove the tag from the skateboard, and you can't break the skateboard without breaking the tag. So it really is a product and a tag that are coupled for life. In our case, we are a print-on-demand custom company, meaning that every skateboard order that we get is printed as it's needed. So the fact that the NFC tags could be written as the boards were shipped out to customers is also a great advantage to us. And as we've dove into this, we have also discovered many benefits using NFC in the fulfillment process too, having a unique identifier that follows every unique skateboard, even in the warehouse, is a big advantage for us. If you can move on to the next slide. Once we started looking into NFC and kind of decided it was the technology we wanted to use for embedding information in the skateboards, we then started looking for where that information was going to be stored. We see many advantages to the NFC tags beyond just the product passport. So we wanted to be able to have a situation where not all the information was on the tag. We have a lot more information than would fit in most tags. And as we started looking at our options, we discussed some of this with our customers, some of them who have an interest in maintaining data over the long term. These are collectors. Their products that they buy and manufacture with us may last 40, 50 years or more. So there was always a concern about the constant change of companies. There's a trust concern that is inherent in a lot of people these days when it comes to the long-term viability of companies. Even us who have been in business almost 20 years now, we don't know if we're going to be around in another 5 years. So the blockchain came up pretty quickly as an alternative that we started looking into. It has the advantage of being transparent. It really reduces trust concerns. The decentralized aspect of it meant that there were a lot less points of failure. No companies going under could change what is registered on the blockchain. This, again, was a big advantage for the long-term sustainability of the information storage. Then there's also the immutable part of it. Obviously, it is a concern for many products, but very much so for skateboards, that counterfeits and products being copied is something that we decided we could fight at the same time using these product passports. Another benefit that we found with the blockchain is that there is no long-term cost associated with it, really. You do have a small upfront cost for registering the information up there, but then from then on, the cost is gone. There's no cost of maintaining any application, any storage anywhere. It truly is an upfront cost. And as we kept diving into this further, we started to realize that in the goal, again, of preventing counterfeits, creating a real unique connection between what we're registering, in this case on the blockchain, and the skateboards itself, we have been lucky enough to come across these, what I'm calling blockchain ready tags, which are basically NFC tags that have the encryption algorithms built into the tags, allowing them to verify themselves against the information stored on the blockchain. So if you want to move to my final slide, this really was kind of a breakthrough moment for us, and we're just starting to really use these new tags. But what this means is the blockchain has another advantage suddenly, which is that it has a built-in encryption process just in the way the blockchains are created that, combined with these blockchain-ready tags, allows us to really create a one-to-one connection between the skateboard and the information that is stored on the blockchain. And as we originally dove into this with the idea of creating a following the provenance and the sustainability of skateboards, we also always had in mind to want to create more brand building opportunities and more connections with our customers post-sale. And this is really where we're seeing a future with the Web3 aspect of blockchain connected web experience that can be very well adapted to the way NFC can connect our users to our website. One of the big problems with Web3 is figuring out a way to onboard new customers for them not have to feel like they have to register and go through a lot of steps. With this connection we're creating between the skateboard and the blockchain, we've discovered that the skateboard ends up being the identity that can be used for onboarding onto Web3, in the sense that a customer can tap that chip on the skateboard, be directed to a website, and have access to a whole set of secondary user experience just through the authentication of that chip that is in the skateboard. And this leads to a whole new set of possibilities that can come through blockchain and distribution of tokens, be it from a collector standpoint or a financial standpoint, that again would all be accessed through the chip that is embedded in the product. Some examples I have here are like rewarding sustainability, passing on other distributable tokens to the customer through the chip that is embedded in the skateboard. We're looking at the ideas of gamifying some of this, meaning that the chip will give access to a version of the skateboard that is purchased in a game or in a metaverse. So that's just a quick overview of how we're using NFC, and I think especially combined with the blockchain, we're seeing many additional benefits that can come from it beyond the digital passport, and it's really giving us a way to step into Web3 and in a way future-proof the development efforts that we're diving into right now. And that's it for me.
All right, great, thanks, Lucas. If I can get all of our panelists to come back online, we do have at least one question sitting out there, and I've got a couple here also to get us started. Thank all of you for kind of walking us through all these different perspectives. There's obviously a lot to digest. So I guess maybe my first question, because of all of the different aspects of this, and I'll kind of go around the room and ask all of you this, and I'll start with Lucas. I'll start with you first and kind of go back to Preeti. So, what's the quickest way for people that are listening today to kind of start their journey on, integrating NFC and DPP in their products? Obviously, you've done a lot of thoughtful research on this, but what would be your advice for people?
Well, I mean, for me as a developer, the exciting part was really starting to play around with the technology. I'm getting my hands on some NFC tags, writing them, playing around with them, and then in my case, connecting with ST and then Identiv and figuring out how these tags could be incorporated into our products, because there are so many different shapes and forms and ways that these can be built into the product. We stumbled into a situation that worked for us pretty fast. But I'd say, once you get started, it's hard to back off because it is very exciting stuff. And we live in the reality now where the value that we can add to things that are connected is huge for any product, I believe.
Right, great. What about you, Stefan? What would be your advice for how people should get started on this journey?
Well, I would say, first of all, don't be afraid if it's a new technology. Just like Lucas said, the first hands-on will give you an experience you will never forget. It is the same if you remember how you first time used wireless payment with your smartphone. So it's as simple, it makes fun, and at the end you will see that it creates an extremely useful use case for all of us. So we integrators, we do have samples available for first trials. We are open to introduce the technology to anyone. And so the first steps you never need to take alone.
Okay, great. Jean-Remi?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is to have a look to the regulation, to have a look to what is currently required by the regulation, and to have a look to what is offered by the NFC technology. And you will be able to see that NFC technology is perfectly aligned with what is defined in the regulation, and even can go beyond to enable and to combine different use cases. Because I think that the key is to offer a very good user experience to the consumer to make it happen.
Great. And how about you, Preeti?
So I think a lot has been said on how we can start. What I would like the listeners to consider is like two aspects, right? One is to be business ready. And to be business ready means start preparing for DPP because identify your products will fall into which priority product group. And look for what type of data you need to put in place to be compliant to the regulation itself. But that's not only it, because you could also add data-driven business innovations, enabling services, for example, over lifetime of products. So if you are looking at it from business perspective, you might as well look at some business innovations around that. So that's one cluster of things which I think listeners should think about. The other, of course, we spoke about technology, how to be technology ready. There are various aspects in the DPP journey that device makers, depending on where you are in the supply chain, or component manufacturers, or even material providers, suppliers, you'll need to think of where do you stand in the value chain and what you need to do to be technology ready. We have been looking at that from a contactless standpoint and where we can bring data carriers, different data carriers. From Infineon, we offer a wide range of wireless technologies, including NFC. And in that, just to kickstart, what I would say is there is an NBT dev kit that we have prepared, which is DPP ready. So you can take the dev kit, integrate your use case into it, develop it using that development kit, and there you go. You have a DPP implementation for your product. That's one part to be technology ready. And of course, we are part of NFC Forum, and to be technology ready means to participate in standardization, not only in Senelec, where the actual DPP compliance standards are being made, but also take part in industry open standards like NFC Forum, where certain aspects are being discussed in terms of use cases, for example.
Yeah. All good points, and I will do a quick shout. Preeti, if you mute yourself. I will, Jean-Remi mentioned this and you did as well, so I will make another shout out. So there is, as both of them have mentioned, all the standards initiatives happening outside the NFC Forum in the European Commission. And one of the key organizations is Senelec and Joint Task Force 24. I know that they're always welcoming new technical advisors at the country level to participate in those conversations. And so if that's something that your company is able to do and you're interested in DPP, I would certainly encourage you to raise your hand for those types of opportunities. So Preeti, you bring up a good point about thinking about other things you can do along that journey, and Lucas kind of talked about this. So, and I've also heard when I have been at recent conferences that, lots of companies that looked at putting NFC tags like in packaging or in products, but sometimes they struggle with the ROI because it does cost money, of course. The DPP seems like it might be an interesting opportunity to kind of rethink the business ROI, because that will be mandated at some point. And Lucas, you've talked about a lot of really interesting things that you guys are already doing. And I'll send it back to you, Lucas. Is there anything else that you've looked at that you're ready to kind of talk about as it relates to, hey, when I deploy, NFC into a product, DPP is one thing I could do, but there's a whole lot of other, features I might be able to go along with that. Is there anything else you'd want to share? Or maybe I go to Stefan next, because I know that they have a lot of other product experience. Would you want to add anything based upon your slides already, Lucas?
No, not much. I mean, I think that there's so many options. This could be something, honestly, I could talk about all day, because we spend a ton of time just tossing ideas around. But I don't think any company in today's world can minimize the impact, again, of having your products connected. Everybody having access to their smartphones, to social media all the time. There are so many opportunities. I mean, granted, for our company being a skateboard company, it might reach the younger generation a little bit more, but I believe there are avenues for almost every product out there to create interesting experiences for people through NFC connections and products.
Awesome. Stefan, real quick, and then I have one question from the audience that I do want to get to.
Okay, so just quickly from my side, I mean, so adding new features to an NFC tag is, I love this topic simply because meanwhile, so much is possible. It's not only a data carrier, meanwhile, it can also be an authentication check, which is possible with additional security features. We are able, meanwhile, to integrate sensors. We can do fill level measurement, for example, on a capacitive way. We can do, for example, also strain sensing, meanwhile. So things like that are possible. And of course, if additional features are added, also the price pays off much, much easier. And this will bring to the clients big advantages in promoting internally the NFC technology.
Great. So real quick, so I've got two questions specifically for Lucas, and I don't want to miss these before we run out of time. Let's see. So the first one is, hey, Lucas, do you encode the NFC tag at your company, or do you buy them encoded already?
So these new blockchain chips have a private and public key that are in the chip when they're shipped from the manufacturer. We encode them very little on our end because we really rely on most of the information to be on the blockchain and only the encryption capabilities within the chip to authenticate itself against the blockchain. So although there is basically on our end just putting a URL on the chip, that is done as in our facility before it's shipped out. But the whole encryption preparation of the chip to be blockchain ready, that is done in this case by ST.
Got it. Thank you. All right. So the other one, and this is kind of a quick question, I guess more for Stefan. Have you I don't understand that question. I'll have to skip that because we're running out of time. I do have one that I think also would be interesting for Preeti and Jean-Remi to weigh in on kind of as we close up here. But so this person is saying, hey, they want to use NFC tags in a low value product. And it's clear they'd like to use a low cost NFC chipset or tag. But what they're finding is that, those lower cost NFC tags are often cloned, and it can be purchased like even on places like Amazon. What guarantees, should they look for when it comes to buying tags as part of their solution? Jean-Remi, would you want to try to address that question, and I'll have Preeti close this out with that.
Yeah, I can try. in ST, we have a big portfolio with different products with a scalable offer regarding the security. And I would say that the security level you want to have depends on what you want to protect. But once you can, at the end, it's to bring added value to your customer. So if the final customer thinks that there is an added value to secure the tag and the information which are inside, I think it's a good compromise to have a tag with more security feature than the low cost tag.
All right, and I know that all vendors have suppliers have a pretty elaborate effort to making sure people are buying authentic products. Preeti, would you want to add anything else also to this question?
Yeah, I want to just reiterate here, we from Infineon as well have a broad portfolio of NFC tags. And depending on the risk that you expect your product to have, if it's a low-cost product, but it might be used in an environment which has different levels of security. So depending on what risk your product is going to be exposed to, it would be, in the longer run, it would pay off if you are investing in a product which has authenticated access, for example. Because in the end, when we are looking at data which is going to be stored for digital product passport, this data could include, parts of the data could include information which you don't want to disclose in open market. So there is this consideration of what type of data you want to put for DPP, and being mindful that it's going to be for the entire life cycle of your product. So that consideration needs to be done. Having said that, at Infineon, we have, similar to other suppliers, we have a broad portfolio of NFC tags that can be used, which are compatible with all the mobile platforms and other readers that are available in the market.
Okay, great. All right, so let's real quickly go to the next to the last slide. As a quick closing comments, I do want to thank all of our panelists and all of you for participating today. And as Preeti had mentioned earlier, always welcoming new organizations to the NFC Forum is something that we enjoy to do. The forum does have 4 different membership levels, really depending upon how much you want to get involved. And if you want to start influencing these conversations, what work items we do, what specifications we build, associate member and up are the places where I think you'd want to focus your attention. As I said, we've had a large amount of growth over the last several years, and we do think it's in part due to the success of contactless as it's found its way into more and more parts of our lifestyle. I do want to thank everyone for being today here. Next slide, please. Thanks again to all of the panelists. And next slide, I'll thank everyone for joining and have a good rest of your day.